All right, what's up? All right. Today is Starlight. Isn't that a song from the 70s? Starlight. Anyway, we're going to look at the UA Starlight. So I was checking out this pedal. Before it ever came out, there was demos from UAFX. And back in late 2020, and it's coming in spring. So the demos blew my mind, and I was like waiting for it. And then once it came out, I held off because I was hoping to get like a used one on Reverb, and it was out for months and nothing popped up on Reverb, which I guess is a good sign, which means people are buying it. A lot of people I've seen were buying it, and nobody's selling it, so that's a good sign. So I finally picked up one on Reverb for not much cheaper than a new one, but I had to get one. So, it's a really cool purchase. I'm actually happy with it. After I, had it for a couple of weeks and done a couple of live streams with it, sounds killer. So we're gonna compare it to a couple of things. The Diamond Memory Lane Junior, which is one of my go-to delays for the last several years, and just an Empress ecosystem, which we had recently done a demo. So I'll just compare that a little bit as well. So let's just get to a sound that I've been using. Right now it's in WYSIWYG mode, which is when it's not a preset. It's what you see is what you get on the screen. It only has one preset. That is my pet peeve of this pedal, people at Universal Audio FX. You have all these great sounds, and I'm singing and playing live at a gig, and I want to get from whatever, a slapback to a delay to 3 or 4 different sounds. I can't. I got one. I usually use 3, 4, not a lot, but come on, one preset. That's like a tease. I mean, the ecosystem has got like 25. Of course, certain pedals don't have, like Diamond has no presets, but it's not meant it does one thing. So and you tap tempo from a slap and just reach down real quick and switch the mix, I guess. So it's a lot less money. But anyway, I'll start with that pet peeve. But let's listen to the sound, which is really good. A little bit of modulation in there, right? Feedback, I believe, in a little more. You can hear that modulation kicking in. Getting really wavy. Switch to like the different pickups. So let's compare that to the Diamond Memory Lane. Modulation up. Now, I've always loved the Memory Lane Junior's modulation on the delays is my favorite modulation that I've heard so far. Although the UFX is I like the modulation on the Diamond even better than El Capistan, better than Ecosystem. It's like a nice dreamy. Killer. So, and then. You can obviously get it really crazy. Just back it off. It's really beautiful. I don't know if it's better than the Diamond one, but it's definitely its own thing, and it's given its run for money, and it's a little more flexible because you could really dial in it a little more. The Diamond has just that one sound. Basically, you could make it wetter or drier. But the Diamond with the modulation all the way. Lovely sound. Reminds me of like old Police, right? Right around the center is about as where you. Play that all day just to listen to the modulation. And now also on this is like the Bucket Brigade digital memory, not digital memory, deluxe memory and type of sound. You can also switch it to mode A, which is instead of modulation, it's whatever, tremolo or vibrato or whatever you call it. That's really cool too. So check these out. That's really cool. And switch to the neck pickup. Or you can even make it all wet and have no dry sound to go. That's pretty cool. So, and then the middle one, it just is no modulation. Which I don't know why you even need a no modulation. You could just turn the modulation all the way down. I guess maybe I don't know the point of that. I guess since they had a 3-position switch, might as well use it. So here's the it's like a chorusy kind of effect. Switch to the back pickup. This is actually these are Kinman pickups that I'm using a back pickup and the neck pickup. It has special wiring that I could dial that in, which is really cool. Go back to mode A, and there's more of the wobbly wobbly. So that's really cool. And now that's just a couple of sounds for the Bucket Brigade. You could make it push up the color. Be careful when you push up the color. It's kind of like an input, so it makes it much louder. So you kind of got to back off the mix, or else it's like your delays are louder than your initial notes. I found if the color's all the way up, I have to put this thing about 9 o'clock. So on the Bucket Brigade, you could hear how it degrades, especially with the color all the way up. So it does. It sounds to me very much like your typical, like your Bucket Brigade things. It doesn't sound a lot of the pedals, like the D1, they're trying to do a Bucket Brigade. Even the Microsystem to some extent, it sounds like an emulation. It doesn't sound the same as a real like the Bucket Brigade, the Maxim or a Deluxe Memory Man. This gets really. It gets those degrades, which sounds very natural. very analog, even though it's digital. Digital's catching up, especially modulations and delays. I still don't think the digital modulation gets the distortion just quite right. But that's the trickiest one, I think. Let's listen to the tape. It also has that garden hose one, which is on here as well, which is like the extra one you could download. And I'm sure they'll have other ones in the future. It's weird. They have you have this garden hose delay that's available that there's only like 1,000 made ever, and they wanted to put this boutique-y weird thing on there, which is cool. But they don't have more than one preset. It's like, what are you thinking? But it does sound great though. So it does sound more like a tape, right? It doesn't get dark and crunchy right away, but it does kind of degrade and crinkly. Now, this is A, which is like a new machine. B is like a slightly darker machine. So it loses some of the attack on the front of the notes, and it degrades, gets a little darker. And then C is a little darker. But if you want something that's really dark, then you kind of go to the Bucket Brigade, which it just by naturally darkens up on the repeats. Even the older machine tape on C setting still doesn't quite get dark. And I think on the pedal show they actually mentioned that would be nice if you had a color knob like you have on not a color knob, like a bright dark tone knob like you have on El Capistan and the Empress and the Echo System and the D1 and almost every other pedal that does tape. I know it's not authentic to tape. I don't think original Echoplex has had a tone knob that I know of. I never played with one, but it could be useful because why you want those repeats to be dark is that when you're playing, let's say, fast leads over it or something, it gives it a nice ambience under it without having the treble kind of clash and fight with. Which is very noticeable when you put like into a high gain amp. Let's say we go something like this. You see how that kind of clashes, and if I could darken that up, I would sort of back the mix off a little bit too. But if I could darken it up, that would help with that. Which is what I do with the El Capistan or things like that. But if you go to Bucket Brigade, the deluxe Memory Man setting, it's still too wet for high gain amp, but back off the mix and go to if I'm doing like a high gain amp, the Memory Man setting, because it darkens up the repeats, I think is less clashing. Forget about the playing. I'm just kind of, but as you do notice in that example, I played some leads, and you notice those repeats were going. The feedback on the repeats was going forever, but it didn't really clash as much with the initial notes because it was like darker and murkier because it's on the Bucket Brigade. Turn the mix a little bit down. So I found out I keep saying Bucket Brigade because that's what everybody calls it. It's really which is the chips that are used in the Deluxe Memory Man and Maxon and a million other analog Bucket Brigade pedals, which I love that sound. The Maleko and all those pedals, really cool. But this does it in a very convincing. It does it gets the sound. It's the sound. Usually with the if you want to get that sound, you get that pedal. You get to get it right, and everything else is an emulation. But now they're getting so damn close. It's like if you put these two next to each other, you'd be like, wow, they both dial it. They both get it. It's not like a digital coming close. Let's just try slap back. See, this is where the presets would come in. Like at a gig, if I want to go to slapback, what am I going to do? You know? Just a bridge pickup. Pretty convincing sound. Let's try it on the diamond. It's a little louder, actually, for some reason. Because that color knob's up. They both do a really good slapback. I don't know. I think live, the Starlight has kind of sat in the mix a little bit for me. And that's just the bucket break. You could also do it with the tape. So. A little wetter. For me, I kind of like the memory round setting better for slapback. It's just tape is a little too smooth. You want a little bit of percussion punch on it for slapback, I think. Except it's almost like a doubling, bap, bap, you know. Mix a little bit. Since the tape is a little softer, I put up the mix a little bit on the slapback, and now I'm back on the memory man. It's a cool sound. Very convincing sound. So and let's just hear the tape. Just basic tape sound again. A little bit of a and then, let's do some fuzz. Fuzz was a little too loud. I had the feedback all the way down, but for something like that, I might have it. I go for something like that. Now that was very wet. I normally wouldn't be that wet. That's the memory band setting. I kind of like it with the color up, but not all the way. You can see there's a lot of delay on it, but it doesn't fight it because I kind of dialed in the mix. It does sound, that does sound good. Let's try with the tape. That was really wet with a lot of feedback. I don't know what I'm trying to decide which one I like better, the tape or the digital memory man. I used the digital memory man for the gig the other night, and I was really digging it for like leads and stuff. Tape is a little bit better for some like smooth. It's like cleans, and I want some jazzy thing, but I want to kind of like be nice and pretty, swinging some cool riffs over Sade and going like. I probably write notes. Modulation on it, you know. And again, with the tape, you know, if you want a little bit more, less mushy on the front end, you can go for A or B. B is kind of a nice compromise because A is might maybe too bright and start clashing with itself. C might be a little mushy. It depends what you're going for. I wish there was a color knob, but you notice the front end of the note. It's like. On A, it's very snappy on the beginning of note. B is like, it's a little less snappy on the front of the note, a little less bright, and then C is just a little less. It depends what you have. It's nice options. I just again wish there was a color, not a color knob, but a tone knob. There's a color knob, but that's really the input gain, which makes it crunchier. Not really doesn't affect the treble that much. I'm not going to get too much into. Maybe I'll hit the digital. I'm not going to really hit the garden hose delay. But actually, because I'm like I love an analog and tape, and that's the way I wanted for the first like week. I didn't even touch the digital. I'm like, oh, let me try the digital now. And actually, I was pretty impressed with it. Because the modulation on it is really nice. It gives you like an 80s. So this is the digital. I'll put the modulation all the way up. I'll change. This is digital with A. Digital with B. I think that's with no modulation. And digital with C. I think it's just a different kind of modulation. before it more turns to center. Yeah, I think the top one is like a flanger, and the bottom, the A is like a flanger, and C is like a chorus, if I remember correctly. That's pretty cool, because the Echoes does like a delay with a flange, and it's a very cool effect. So it's definitely like, even if you weren't going for like digital Christine, it's definitely a cool effect. Like that flangey thing, you don't have that really on the Memory Man or the tape, and that's really cool. And it's good if you're doing. Let's see the color on here. I think my understanding is the color. It's not like a bright dark. It's more like it does like a Fletcher Munson curve on the far. Right? It's brighter and darker on both ends. Sorry. And on the far left, it loses some top end and some bottom end. It's a little duller. So you get do what you want with that. Usually you're used to like brighter or darker. That one it's more like top end and bottom end up or down. It looks just like this. So, but the point is, it's digital. Even the digital is. When you think of digital delays, people think of less flavor or whatever. But it sounds killer. Think of maybe like your old Lexicons or 2290s or those rack effects that were digital but just really sounded cool. And the modulation on it, man. It's wobbly. Yeah, the sound is just. I mean, there's things on the Diamond that could do what the Starlight could do, like in one setting, and hold its own. But then there's a bunch of other things that, I mean, it's I don't know. As far as delays, compared to the Timeline, the ecosystem, anything I've tried, it's superior sound. I think it sounds. If they had a bright dark knob and more presets, it would be like a killer. It doesn't have all the reverse effects and filters that you have like in a Timeline or ecosystem or even a D1. But how often do you use that type of stuff unless you're doing ambient weird shit, which, hey, a lot of people do. But if you want like a killer just delay to do music, songs, I mean, it just sounds great, man. And the modulation, and there's different types of modulation, and they all sound really good. Even the digital flange does similar things like what the Echoes does. I mean, it's killer, man. And I've been using it live, and it works, man. Like, I'd use the ecosystem for a few live streams, and it got some good sounds about it, and it fought me a little bit on certain things where I went, and the Diamond is always a good workhorse. It's great, and sometimes you have to reach down and fit, but the modulation sounds really good. You can't go wrong with the Diamond. is a meat and potatoes. It just does one sound, but it does it. It's a really good sound, and the modulation is killer on it. And you could actually set up the diamond. You could have a setting in it, which you could look at the menu how to do this, where you could switch the modulation on or off just by holding down the tap. So let's just. So right now. Here's the modulation. Around 3 o'clock, I like it because all the way it's just a little too wobbly. But you could shut it off by just holding down this tap. It goes beep, 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 beep. It doesn't beep, but it kind of flashes. And then without modulation, you hear it kick in with the modulation. Damn. So that, I mean, that's an infinitely useful feature. You could just kick in the modulation, turn on or off, which, then you don't really need a preset if it's that easy to just switch modulation on or off. Or of course, tap could help you go from slap to, So, if you want something that maybe once in a while I'll reach down and change the mix or the feedback, but you can kind of get a pretty good setting that works for most songs. Maybe a hair wet for certain songs, a hair dry for other songs, but it kind of works. And no big deal. And then maybe if we do something that's like a Pink Floyd that you really want to go, then I'll just reach down and push up the feedback in the mix. Which, unfortunately, with the Starlight, I'm going to have to do the same thing because they only got one preset. So basically, I'm using the one preset. It's just like a drier version for when I'm going into a high gain amp. Because sometimes I'll be playing something to a high gain amp, and then I'll realize it's way too much. So I could just go and flip it. And you still got to hold on to it for like 1.5 seconds, which is a little bit long, because you want it fast. And it's kind of weird because this light goes off and this goes to green, blink. And at first I was like, "Whoa!" It turns the effect off, but no, the effect is on. And then to switch it back, you could either hold this down again, or just flick it back. So it's kind of unintuitive, but once you realize that, I'm back to there, and then I could go to the preset. And it's quite a long time holding that down. It feels like forever, because if you're in a song and you want to, bar 10, you're on one effect, and bar 11, you're on another one. You got to anticipate it. You can't just go click. Well, I'd say the D1 is the best as far as being able to switch presets, because you just hit both buttons and it banks to the next one immediately. Which makes perfect sense. So I don't know why that every pedal doesn't do this. If UA had presets, maybe even change the color from purple to green or whatever, like the Echo system does. Even if it didn't have a million presets, 3 or 4, perfect. And you just hit them both and bank up. You can go from one, even if you have 5 and 5 like colored lights or something, and went one from 1 to 5. Boop, 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 boop. Right? By hitting both, so that you're not confusing it with a tap tempo. Ergonomically, that's exactly how the D1 does it. It's the only one that, is really easy just to flip between it. Just you don't have to go bank up, bank down. Just have 5 presets and flip. Flip between them. I don't know. So that's my pet peeve about the Starlight. Although it sounds so good, I'll deal with it. And I guess compared to the Diamond, at least the Diamond doesn't have any presets. The El Capistan doesn't have any presets. But with things like the Echoes, the D1, Echo System, Timeline, all these things have presets, and you're talking $400 for one of these things. And it has a lot of sounds. If it only had one sound, then then maybe preset. But you'd still want a preset because maybe you want to have a slapback version and a wetter ambient version or something. But it has, you got the Bucket Brigade is great. Maybe you want a Bucket Brigade for your slapback. Maybe you want a tape for some ambient. Maybe you want a wetter version, a drier version. Maybe a digital for some doing some Queen or something. Okay, right there is 3 or 4 you're going to use in the course of a set as a working musician. And then you want to switch between them, of course, while I'm singing and playing all the time. So I don't have time to be futzing with, and the audience doesn't want to see you reaching down. And then the band is looking at you like, are you ready for the next song? You're fuddling with your pedals all the time. They hate that, and it doesn't look professional, right? So what am I going to get? 2 Starlights so I could get the, But I am using it. I don't see myself not using it anytime in the future. I haven't heard anything else that sounds as good and has presets. Not the D1, not the Echo System, not the Timeline. I'm sorry. Echoes is one of my favorite sounding pedals. I think it sounds as good on tape as maybe a El Capistan, but the switching of the presets is just convoluted. You have to kind of go into the mode for presets, get to the mode you want, and then press another button on the left to turn on the new mode. And like, I'm gonna do that while I'm singing and playing guitar and working the mixer on my right hand and reading lyrics. And no, I mean they don't make. I don't know what they're thinking. They're engineers thinking that you're gonna be in your bedroom twiddling knobs, and the purpose of the preset is just so you don't forget a cool sound. No, it's like you gotta have this. Here's your sounds, and I got in the bridge of the song, I want this sound, and in the chorus of the song, I want that sound, and I gotta boom switch it on the fly. Or at the very least, we're doing a Pink Floyd song, so click, we got it, because the drummer. The drummers are always like tick click click, and you're into the song. And if you're down there fiddling with your pedals, you look like a dumbass to the band and the audience. So, Or you're waiting for you and you're fiddling just to get the sound for the new Pink Floyd song that has a little bit more of a wetness, and then you got to switch back to slap back because the next song is a Johnny Cash song or something. It doesn't make. I don't know. They're not. I think they should go and do a set of songs that have. These people are making these pedals. Do a set at a club where you have songs that require all the sounds, all these great wonderful sounds that you make available in the pedal. A country song that has a slapback, a Pink Floyd that has an ambience, sound, something that has just a little bit of echo delay, like in a Zeppelin tune, and 3 or 4 of them, and then have them put them back to back, and then they'll realize real quick, oh shoot, we should have made it easier to switch. That's all they need to do, or just ask me or any gigging player. I mean, I haven't seen a review yet where somebody didn't complain about the single preset for something that good. It's like. And then they have add a garden hose delay, which nobody asked for. Not that it's not cool; it's very cool, but something obscure that nobody asked for. But you don't give presets, which is something that any working musician is going to require if they're going to go into something like this. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what they think. I complain about the Ecos too, which has presets, but it's convoluted to switch. And in the middle of a gig, it was like a few times. After using it for a couple weeks, I was hitting the wrong one, not getting to the patch, stumbling and making mistakes in the song because I couldn't. So I was like, can't buy it, sorry. Even though it sounded really cool and it's for the footprint. If it wasn't for those presets, I probably would have bought one. Because something that small, that sounds that good and has that many different sounds and presets, and they dropped the ball on being able to switch the presets. What good is having a bunch of presets if you can't switch them on like really quick on a dark stage? I don't know. Anyway, that's my opinion. But the Starlight does sound fantastic, so I'm going to keep using it. The way I'm justifying the lack of presets is that, hey, the Diamond didn't have presets either, and I'll get a sound that works for most songs, and then I have to, inevitably, in the course of a set, reach down and change the mix and the feedback on some songs. Now, if I'm going from slapback to a longer delay, I got the tap at least. So we could get a sound that works for most songs and just use the tap. And then I can have a preset that makes it a little less wet. And between that, I get most of the time. But then if I if I want to go to the Pink Floyd song that's a lot wetter, more feedback, or, something like that, I got to reach down and then switch it back at the end of the song. Or else I've done that where I've had it wet and then I went to the next song real quick and then it's like way too wet. And then I had to turn it off until the next song or until I had a second to tweak it. And, who needs that? But it does sound really good. To the point where I'm really enjoying. I like put it up way too wet and just really enjoying the sound of it. The sound that I've been using most is kind of like this Bucket Brigade with a little bit of modulation. It's a little too much modulation. It's like I'm melting. I love how those Bucket Brigade delays just kind of degrade and get crunchy and dark. It's like moody. If you put the color up all the way. Watch when I change, do infinite feedback, self-modulate. Cool, but if I switch the timing. It's cool. But if you're familiar with the analog effects, when you have it doing that self-modulation, the feedback is always up. It gets into really crazy, spacey sounds, and this is a little too controlled. It just speeds up and slows down. But like if you do the real Deluxe Memory Man or the Maxon or something, when you do that, it gets in some crazy, really cool self-modulation sounds. Which, I mean, not a big deal. When are you going to use that? It's a cool effect, though. And it doesn't quite do it the way other ones do it. And sometimes actually it is useful to get that crazy modulation, because sometimes we would do like the weirdest sound effects in Whole Lot of Love or something. Is this Whole Lot of Love? In Zeppelin, where there's that middle section where he has the delay and it's and then I would take an analog delay and kind of put the feedback up and turn it around. Even on that Memory Man, you could kind of on the Diamond. Let's try that. Let's just see what that does. So that one cuts off. It depends on the setting. I forget which setting is. It's kind of annoying. So yeah, I don't know what there's different settings with this switch here, and most of them won't let you self-modulate. Similar to what the Starlight does. What you're looking for on the real analog pedal, where it kind of gets this. It sounds like a spaceship taking off or something. It's really cool, and it's a fun thing to play with on live when we're doing like sound effects. Diamond kind of started to get that a little bit, but he didn't quite get it. The Diamond, but the Starlight doesn't do it either. You really, But when Memory Man does that, and even the Memory Boy does that as well. There's some crazy fun. You just twiddle the knobs and it gets spacey, which is kind of fun to do. Sometimes I'll do it live when you're doing like a Led Zeppelin bridge, and where it's like, in that section, way down inside, woman, you need me. That's my star. I'm sticking to it. But yeah, Starlight, great sounds. And some presets, guys. I hope, maybe I'll email them and bug them. If they add like a software update that allows even 3 presets, like the Chase Bliss ones have like 2 presets or something. And that's just kind of annoying because it's a switch. You got to bend down and switch it. I don't know. Do they think people aren't like playing gigs or something? Like they're just sitting in their bedroom fiddling with these pedals? You're going to pay $400 for a pedal and just sit in your bedroom? Maybe it's a good hobby, but I think, the people are going to justify spending that kind of money making gigs where they're actually making money, so they could justify. I could spend $400 on this pedal because I'm using it, to make money. Anyway, at least that's what I use to justify. And not that anybody needs a $400 delay pedal. Probably be just as fine doing gigs with a carbon copy, but it sounds great and it just sounds cool. And I do think I hate it when people say, well, the audience, they don't even know, they don't even care. Just play some crappy Line 6 or something and they don't even know. I think they do know, because people do respond when it sounds killer. They don't know why. They don't know if it's used because you use a cool pedal or compressor or a cool amp or speaker or guitar. And you don't need super expensive gear to sound really good, but finding the right gear for what you're trying to do and tweaking and dialing it in. I mean, I get a better sound than most people, and bands hire me and like, wow, we have a bunch of fill-in guitar players, and you have like this warm professional sounding tone, and there's those guys have like a ratty tone by comparison. I'm like, yeah, because I care about this stuff, and it's important to sound good. And some guitar players, just think about it. You listen their tone. Stevie Ray Vaughan, he has a certain sound. And yes, it's his playing, but also the way he has the gear that suits that sound, And so you don't have to have the most expensive gear, but having something that has a good sound that fits what you're doing. If you want a rock sound, it's nice and full and crunchy, and it's not harsh, it's not muddy. If you're doing delay stuff, I do use a lot of delay for different types of things, and having one that sounds really sweet and. And do like a Prince song, and I'll put the F13 flanger on. I mean, that's way wetter than I would play. Well, let's try something like that, Sounds really, really cool. Or you do something like, that's a little. I have that's a little better than I would normally put it on the flanger or the delay. That was an F13 flanger on top of the Starlight with modulation, which usually you wouldn't have that much modulation. But I'm just trying to have fun with the sound so you can hear it. Sounds are important. I mean, some of these albums, like that one Grammy-winning Beck album, it just sonically sounded unbelievable. It's cool effects, and it just when things. It's about, at the end of the day, it's about sound, right? You're playing songs. It's about how it sounds, and if you have a scraggly amp that sounds harsh, it's like, I don't care what you're playing. It's gonna hurt people's ears. If you want have something that's warm and rich and full and nice and clear and. People want to hear it, and they're like, I don't know what it is, but that band just sounds better. That guitar player just sounds better. They're playing the same notes, but it just sounds better. And you don't need a $450 pedal to that, or $400 pedal, whatever. But as a part of your job, I think, is finding the right stuff that works for you. And again, like if you don't have the $400, I would totally say the Diamond is great, and Diamond isn't cheap. But I don't know. It's it's less than half the price of used on Reverb than the Starlight is, and it sounds great. Totally. If you want something quick and simple that works. I mean, the quality of all these things, even the Echoes, the D1, you can't go wrong. You just got to find what's right for you. Even a carbon copy, works really well for a lot of things. I mean. So it's just finding the right. There's not too much bad gear out these days, So it's just finding the right things for you know, I think the most important thing is to have a guitar, good pickups, and an amp that works for what you're doing. Gets a good clean sound or gets a good crunchy sound or whatever. I'm going through a Mesa Barba Scale 30 because it's a custom amp cab with a EV speaker in it, and these are Kinman pickups in a custom Warmoth guitar. And actually, people think, oh, custom, it must have been real expensive, but you know, I bought it used for like the guitar for like less than $600, and I switched out the pickups for like $300 used. So the guitar, all in, is cost me less than $900, and it sounds and plays great. And those Kinmans with the you know, I mean, granted, I get it all used, but with pickup, people are paying $3,000-$4,000 for guitars, and I don't know. That seems like a lot for, you know. They're paying for fancy flame tops and I don't know. I like this one, and it's also hollow out swamp ash, so it's super light. And this thing is light, which is great. Makes me play better because my back don't hurt. These things are important. Anyway, but we'll do another video on the Kinman stuff. But this was as far as the Starlight, that's pretty in depth. What I think about it. Sounds killer. Add some presets and ability to change the tone. Maybe they're coming out with a Bluetooth app for it, so hopefully you could change the color. But presets, man. If they just added presets, I'd be like, I would be, you know, you don't need to add reverse and all those other fancy ones. Although that would be cool, since you can download other effects because it's digital. Maybe they will have other fancy effects like reverse or, you know, filters, which would be super cool. Although it might be hard to, but it'd be hard to use it properly without presets. Presets. Yeah, presets. Other than that, you know, if it was just the presets, I wouldn't care about any other stuff. More presets. The 5. You know, have to like change color or something. I don't know. If they came out with a Starlight next year that had presets, I would sell this one and buy that one, even if it cost me an extra $100 or whatever. Anyway. It sounds killer. I mean, as you could hear, it sounds better than anything else. I think it sounds better than the Capistan, Echoes, Diamond. And yes, those have sounds that, you know, might be able to hold their own against a sound that the Starlight has. But then Starlight has 2 different kinds of modulation on, and does, you know, just those 3 sounds. And it also has the Garden Hose, and they'll have, I'm sure, a future for different sounds. We didn't even get to the Garden Hose one. Well, yeah. It's just that top one, and then you switch it to a green color, and here's the Garden Hose. It's kind of like a very mid-rangey. And this color affects the tone, I think. Sure what the color does on this. Maybe that was the one with it does the EQ. That's the Fletcher Munson. I forget. Very and there's different. I don't know. Pay attention to the Garden Hose. Different settings. Oh yeah, I think these different settings are just like EQ curves. This one has the more bottom, and I think this is the high pass filter, if I remember correctly. So this one has a little more low end cutoff. And this one's a very high pass filter. I got a 1,000 hertz, like a telephone. If you put it in that C setting, which is like a telephone, and put it all wet, you could be like Pink Floyd. Of course, there's a lot of latency, so it's hard to actually play it, but you get that kind of telephone AM radio sound with the Garden House Select. So Cool. I'd rather have presets. I'd much rather have presets. But it is cool. I don't know. Maybe I'll use it on something. It does sound fantastic, though. I have to say, it is the best sounding delay overall. You know, it takes it to another level. You know, over to the Stride, even the El Capistan, which sounds great. Echoes, Diamond. You know, I haven't really compared it to the what's the one that the Belle Epoque Deluxe, which everybody says is one of the best tapes. But that doesn't have tap delay and doesn't have presets either. They don't have tap on that. Come on. Anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And go out and buy one, or don't. See you later.